Some people call it the polar bear question, in reference to the author Fyodor Dostoevsky's comment in 1863. Try to pose for yourself this task, not to think of a polar bear, and you will see that a cursed thing will come to mind every minute. I think we all know instinctively that this is true. Whatever you try not to think about is exactly what you're going to think about. However, it was only proved to be true more than a century after Dostoevsky remarked on this phenomenon by a psychology professor at Harvard University named Daniel Wagner. He started off with a very simple experiment, asking participants to tell him what they were thinking for 5 minutes straight, while trying not to think of a polar bear. If one came to mind, they had to ring a bell. And despite explicit instructions to avoid it, the participants thought of polar bears more than once a minute on average. Next, he asked them to do the same exercise, but this time to try and think of a polar bear. And they found that this group then thought of white bears more often than another group who had been told to think of polar bears from the very beginning. They then came to the conclusion that suppressing the thought for the first 5 minutes caused it to come back even more strongly later on. And this experiment led to Wagner doing a lot of research on unwanted thoughts, and he actually found evidence that when we try not to think of something, one part of our mind does avoid a forbidden thought, but another part checks in every so often to just make sure the thought is not coming up, and therefore, ironically, bringing it to mind. And after more than 25 years of working in this field, he said that people would listen to him talk about his research, and then they would ask the question, okay, so what do I do about this? Because many people struggle with unwanted thoughts or worries. And Wagner suggests a number of strategies to deal with these so-called polar bears. Number 1, pick an absorbing distractor and focus on that instead. For instance, in one study, they asked participants to think of a red Volkswagen instead of a white bear. 2, try to postpone the thought. Some research has found that asking people to set aside half an hour a day for worrying allows them to avoid worrying during the rest of the day. 3, cut back on multitasking. One study found that people under increased mental load show an increase in unwanted thoughts. Number 4, allow yourself to think of the thing you want to avoid in controlled ways, as this makes it less likely to pop back into your mind at other times. And number 5, practice meditation and mindfulness, as there's evidence that this may help people avoid unwanted thoughts as they strengthen mental control. Now friends, as I read these 5 suggestions, I realized that all 5 of them are contained in one Bible verse, 1 Peter 5 verse 7. Cast all your anxiety on Him, because He cares for you. It will help you to focus on God instead of your problem. Allow you to postpone the worry to your prayer time. Not multitask during that time, but allow yourself to think of the worry. And you're doing all of this while performing a form of meditation. However, in addition to all of this, you are actually trusting someone with your problems who can actually do something about it. So next time you're confronted with those unwanted polar bears, I suggest praying about it, because God really cares for you.